and the Constitution itself. This is no time for ethnic and cultural individuality, no time for racial polarization or talk of cessation. We cannot afford a race war, and we cannot allow those who foment this here and abroad to incite us. You said we won't be bullied. Thereafter, President Trump issued an ill-informed executive order, fueled by divisive narratives designed to fracture us. This should have reminded us all that we do not live in splendid global isolation. The backpedaling in the face of Trump's executive order and the looming threat of AGOA's revocation has been remarkable. It reminds me of the popular acronym FAFO. Be careful of what you wish for. The truth is, for years we've been bullied. Our BRICS partners dictate who may and may not visit our country, such as the Dalai Lama, and who we can and cannot engage with, such as the Taiwanese government. You have chosen friends that are pariah nations, that are neither democratic nor uphold human rights, nations at war with their own people through repressive regimes. Conversely, we treat democratic nations, our major trading partners, with disdain and insult. Let it be known that the racist rhetoric so freely bandied about in this parliament and on party rally stages by the likes of the ANC, the EFF and MKP has grave consequences for us as a nation. Your ANC sins are catching up with you. You have prostituted yourselves to the highest bidders who grease your party wheels with no regard for the consequences. The New World Order sees which side you have picked, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. Javier Milei was unambiguous about this at Davos. Mr. President, your lip service to fighting corruption while promoting and protecting cadres who have failed at local government level, who've been implicated and convicted of egregious corruption and tender fraud, undermines our international reputation. This severely limits our ability to attract foreign direct investment to grow our anemic economy. We have a new generation, a new government, in words, not in deed. There's an interesting article about the changing of the guard in the United States entitled Overrides. It focuses on the dismantling of an entrenched and manifestly corrupt order. It is clear that there's been no override or dismantling of our entrenched corrupt order, as your SONA speech was as delusional, out of touch and fanciful as ever. Mr. President, you displayed dystopian disconnection, and I'm not surprised because your ministers do it every day. Minister Mantashe said, Sizabakupa, when we asked him, when are you going to deal with the Lily Mine victims? It's now been 9 years. We hear that Vantage is going to open the mine, not a word about the Lily Mine victims. Your police minister informs you that every police station has a victim-friendly service center. They don't. Just ask every single GBV victim who has to go to a police center to report a rape what it feels like. Your Minister of Home Affairs claims to be eradicating backlogs, yet his department cannot resolve a case I've referred to him of 2 South Africans awaiting passports abroad for more than a year. It's easier for illegal immigrants to infiltrate Home Affairs and bribe their way to obtaining documents that give them access to South African social security and other citizenship privileges that our citizens don't have. No, sir, the situation is actually dystopian. Apart from watching some GNU parties clapping like seals during your address and listening to their valiant attempts at endorsing your commentary, the rest of the country is not convinced.
Modise. Order, honorable members. Let's allow Honorable Modise to make his presentation.
Madam Speaker of the National Assembly, His Excellency, President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency, Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Paul Mashatile, honorable members, people of South Africa, Sanbonani. Chairperson of the session, I have said this before, and I hope I'm going to say it for the last time here today, that if you take a clown and you put it in the kingdom, the clown does not become the king, but the kingdom becomes a clown. or rather SECAs. What we have been subjected to for the past 24 minutes by the Honorable Judge Hlophe is below par. They should have given it to Member Mkitama. He will have done something with that debate. Now I understand why Judge Hlophe will have said, says Tembelegi Matod, because clearly there's nothing there. Chairperson, as a way of introduction, let me first pass my greetings and my respect to the following women who had a profound impact on my political life. Unfortunately, all of them have since passed away. I'm referring to Teresa Ramashamula, Bavelile Hlongwa, Thembi Mnguni, Khumo Ndlovu, Sandra Baloyi, Lindila Sindwa, Elizabeth Letanta, Alina Rantsolase, Tlo Mujela, Phumla Stokwe, Nonozi Mdlalose, and Thuli Nkabinde Khawe. The African National Congress welcomes and supports the State of the Nation address as tabled last week. We particularly welcome the elevation of water and sanitation sector as a key pillar of service delivery and economic development for the ANC-led GNU. Commitments to the Freedom Charter and the Constitution have driven the ANC government's efforts to ensure universal access to safe, clean and drinking water and proper sanitation services. Over the couple of years, we have seen the ANC continued commitment manifesting itself through significant investment in water infrastructure. In his maiden State of the Nation address in 2018, President Ramaphosa announced the establishment of the Infrastructure Fund, which was subsequently established in August of 2020 to drive the infrastructure development across the country. As you have mentioned, the President, 23 billion has been secured to date for 7 large water infrastructure projects through the Infrastructure Fund. The financial support is critical for ensuring long-term sustainability of this project. Madam Chair, Bishop Ramila of St. Paul African Anglican Church in Muletsani, Soweto, and a CEO of DDK Merchandising in Rosebank, shared with me his views on the SONA, and amongst many things he says, I quote, President Ramaphosa delivered a more detailed than usual State of the Nation address, tackling some of the most pressing challenges. His speech focused on the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and equality, emphasizing that low economic growth remains a significant barrier to the meaningful change, close quote. The government, under the leadership of the ANC, has made significant strides in accessing and resolving water challenges in our country. Amongst the key recent developments is the Giyani Water Project in Limpopo, where the Department of Water and Sanitation has managed to complete the first phase of the project, which is comprised the recirculation of water to 24 villages in the Mopani District Municipality, improving the lives of thousands of the citizens. In Hammanskraal, Gauteng, Woiwo is here to agree, the Department of Water and Sanitation, working with the Magalies Water and Tshwane Metro Municipality, have restored the water supply, and today, residents of Hammanskraal have safe drinking water in their taps. This is after the successful completion of phase 1 of the Hammanskraal Water Project. We agree with President Ramaphosa that the water sector needs to be reformed to ensure reliable, sustainable water provision in the country. In this regard, the ANC-led government has prioritized fixing the functionality of water service authorities to deliver on their mandate and provide proper funding for water infrastructure maintenance. The African National Congress supports the Ministry of Water and Sanitation's plan to encourage water boards to take a more active role. This means they will have to provide technical support to local government and manage water projects, ensuring that water service authorities can deliver water and sanitation service effectively. Furthermore, the African National Congress welcomes the President Ramaphosa's announcement committing his government to work with municipalities to establish a professionally managed, well-financed, modern and fit-for-purpose local government system that is capable of delivering its mandate, among others, the provision of safe, clean drinking water and proper sanitation services. Chairperson, Ms. Lindiwe Kanyai, founder of On Shelf and Beyond, a black-owned female company, says on the State of the Nation, and I quote, I was truly encouraged by President Ramaphosa's speech and his reaffirmation of government commitment to economic transformation. We are ready to collaborate with government to help shape and execute solutions that will transform their lives and uplift our communities. Close quote. The water and sanitation sector is ready to play its part in addressing the lack of technical skills within most of our water service authorities. For instance, Rainwater is currently expanding the scope of the Rainwater Academy, which was established in 2012, to now develop technical skills much needed to address South African water challenges. Chairperson, the ANC-led GNU is committed to ensuring much needed attention and increased investment in sanitation, not only in ending sewer spillages, but most importantly, in protecting the dignity of vulnerable in our society. Already, the Department of Water and Sanitation has issued for public comment proposed amendments to the National Water Act and the National Water Services Act, where it said that the bucket system should be outlawed and that there should be no municipality to ever provide the bucket system as a temporary measure, even in informal settlements. Provisions are already existing to increase the investment in sanitation through the Green Fund by the Department of Environmental Affairs as administered by the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Chairperson, as I conclude, please allow me to express my gratitude to the ANC-led government commitment to resolving the issue of inadequate water financing, which has currently hindered the provision of water and sanitation services to communities. President Ramaphosa has asserted during the State of the Nation that his government is committed to developing innovative ways of funding infrastructure. Among the innovative ways, the ANC has proposed ring-fencing of traditional funding, the use of traditional grants, blended finance, private sector partnership, and encouraging departments and local municipalities to access blue and green bonds. If this is a coincidence, Chairperson, then it's a very bad coincidence, because this chap is known to have played a key role in collapsing of vendor building society, otherwise known as VBS. And in August of 2024, he then moved to KwaZulu-Natal, and suddenly, Itala is experiencing problems. I don't know if this is a coincidence. As the African National Congress, we are convinced that all above measures will enhance the national government support for water authorities, and by implementing innovative financing mechanism to address water challenges, we can ensure access to an efficient provision for water and sanitation. Therefore, we call on all municipalities, water boards and communities to work together in advancing security in the country. As President Ramaphosa has said, we as South Africa need to work together to confront our country's challenges and build a nation that works for all its people. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. The whips of all parties have consulted among each other and agreed that we will now take a break, comfort break for 30 minutes. The reason for that is that we don't have enough ablution facilities, and that is why we're giving 30 minutes to all of you. The bells will be rung at 4:30 to allow all of us to come back. The House is adjourned. Sorry, the business of the day is suspended for a while, not adjourned. So you are not going home.
Yeah. Kodwa uvele nje
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, please be seated. Honourable members, we will now proceed with the debate. Please take your seats, and could we have order? I now invite the Honourable Kwankwa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Reflecting on the impact of what I prefer to call the populist ultra-nationalist policies of the United States of America during President Trump's first term in office, The Economist magazine posed a fundamental question in April 2017 as to whether China was challenging the U.S. for global leadership. They put it as follows. I quote, "The two countries are looking in opposite directions. America away from shouldering global responsibilities, China towards it. And they are reappraising their positions in different ways. Here, like the China administration, the Trump administration is dashing from one policy to the next, sometimes contradicting itself and willing to box any rival it sees, whether perceived or real, I might add. China, tortoise-like, is extending its head cautiously beyond its carapace, taking slow and painstaking steps towards global leadership," end quote. This statement, as you know, President, is as true today as it was when made 7 years ago. Honorable President, President Trump's recent executive actions, predicated as they are on misinformation and unfounded rumors, require us to assess our position in the world, to deepen political and trade relationships with countries who endeavor to shoulder more global responsibilities. To this end, we should reorient our trade priorities towards BRICS countries, who constitute approximately 50% of the global population, and the African Continental Free Trade Area. We should also use the upcoming G20 summit to advance Africa's interests in global trade and the development of an equitable global order. In this regard, President, I appeal to you to conduct sober and holistic appraisals of our involvement in the DRC and other continental obligations. While talking about the DRC, I must hasten to add that I found the warmongering that took place in the debate here yesterday deeply repulsive. It is easy for politicians to irresponsibly call for war from the comfort of their fancy offices in Parliament, when in fact the consequences of war are too ghastly to contemplate. Borrowing again the metaphor of a tortoise, President, we should continue, despite pressure from the U.S., to extend our heads cautiously beyond our carapace, taking slow and considered steps in support of the struggle of the people of Palestine in their effort to disentangle themselves from a comprehensive web of oppressive entanglements. Honorable President, as you indicated in your speech, the empowerment of women, youth, and people with disabilities is of paramount importance. It is therefore unpardonable that 30 years into our democracy, coming from one of these groups, vulnerable groups, serves as a fixed impediment to individual success. In fact, for many of these vulnerable groups, rising above one station is an enterprise for only those most courageous and ambitious. The commendable opening of new ports in other provinces, together with the focus of the Secretariat of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement on guided trade initiatives for businesses of women, youth, and people with disabilities, should help us to create access to markets for businesses of the marginalized groups. In addition, the proposed change in the funding model for municipalities presents an opportunity for rural municipalities which currently have no revenue-raising capacity to use increased budget allocation to resuscitate their failing economies and to support businesses of marginalized groups. However, President, strict measures should be taken to ensure that the restructuring of the funding model for municipalities does not end up in an exercise where we rob Peter to pay Paul. President, while we accept the importance of social
Honourable
grants...
Kwankwa, your time has expired.
Dear Bulel, I thank you.
I now invite the Honourable Boshoff.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. President, members of the House. We meet today in the wake of the President's State of the Nation address, an occasion intended to offer direction and hope. Yet how can we speak of hope when the President again proposes a questionable policy that undermines economic growth, discourages investment, and exacerbates already high levels of unemployment? Minister Thal's unilateral announcement of the 100 billion transformational fund is not just a bad policy, it is significant concern for democratic processes, an attack on our economy, and a direct threat to fairness, accountability, and the rule of law. This fund was never approved by Cabinet. It was never debated within the GNU. It was never subjected to the due processes that govern major financial policy decisions. Instead, it was unilaterally declared as though the ANC still governs alone. Let me make it abundantly clear, they do not. This government is a GNU and not an ANC dictatorship. The days of steamrolling over South Africa's economy and institutions for the benefit of a few elected elite are over. Years of poor economic policies, crippling corruption, and rampant crime has resulted in a stagnating economy and gradually, over the last 3 decades, took the voters away 20% of their support. And despite this, the ANC went ahead and pushed through NHI, Bella Bill, and the EWC under guise of caring. But in effect, all 3 acts do nothing for the economic growth or creating jobs, and each of them limits individual freedom. Speaking to you, sir, read the headlines, ANC. Your policies are not working, and that's why the voters are rejecting you. The ANC did not give us the GNU. The voters did. They rejected ANC policy. They rejected race-based legislation. I must, however, stress the need for transformation is not up for a debate. It is a necessity. This means the means by which we achieve it.
Honourable Member, please take your seat. I recognise the Chief Whip of the DA.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. My apologies for doing that to our member, but the member is being drowned out from here where we sit. Can you please ask that the members afford the necessary respect to her? Thank you.
Honourable Members, we have made the request earlier this afternoon as well. Please keep down the comments and the heckling so that everyone, even at the back, can hear the Speaker. Honourable Boshoff, please proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. However, the means by which we achieve it must be legally sound, economically viable, and transparent. This fund, in its current form, fails on all 3 counts. We have seen this exact playbook before, at Eskom, at Prasa, in PPE scandals, and the billions looted during the state...
Honourable Boshoff, please take your seats. Honourable Dugmore. Please try another microphone.
Deputy Speaker, I'd like to ask if the honourable member is prepared to take a question and explain, is she in Zilla's caucus or in John Steenhuisen's caucus? Will she take that question?
Honourable Boshoff, are you prepared to take a question?
Do not entertain silly questions.
Please
South
proceed.
African businesses are already struggling due to unreliable power supply and unreliable water supply, a failing infrastructure, a punishing tax regime and policy uncertainty, which is driving investors away. And this fund will only worsen it. The National Empowerment Fund, which is expected to administer this fund, has faced ongoing scrutiny for governance inefficiencies and financial mismanagement. Without strong oversight mechanisms in place, 100 billion in public and private sector contributions could easily become a bottomless pit, failing to deliver meaningful economic transformation while again enriching a select few. We advocate for transparent governance that ensures all public funds are managed through National Treasury and not the questionable NEF. The DA has exposed the full extent of this disaster. My colleague Toby Chance has done hard work in Parliament to reveal the fund's lack of consultation, financial irregularities and unconstitutional design. Agbare President, daar is klinkbare bewyse dat ekonomiese beleide wat rasgebaseerde kriteria nastreef, daar gestel is om net die elite bevoordeel en moet onmiddellik geskraap word en vervang word met meriete gebaseerde behoeftegedrewe bemagtiging. Finish en klaar. Across every sector, from small business owners to major corporations and foreign investors, there is widespread rejection to this plan. En die publiek, agbare president, hulle sien reg deur julle. Na jare van korrupsie, van staatskaping tot plundering van die COVID-hulp, weet Suid-Afrikaners presies wat gebeur as die ANC hulle hande op die 100 miljard gaan kry. Dit gaan nie na transformasie lei nie. Dit gaan in die sakke van die gekoppeldes verbind is. Ons sal dit nie toelaat dat transformasie as 'n verskoning vir plundering gebruik word nie. Honourable members, there is an alternative to this slush fund. The Democratic Alliance's Economic Justice Policy. Go and read it. This offers a transformation model that is transparent, accountable, and driven by economic growth. This policy speaks to enterprise-driven transformation, empowering small and medium businesses through incentives and investment-friendly policies, skills development, and not forced racial quotas. The reason for a GNU is to find the best policies from each member party and implement them well. In conclusion, Honourable President, if you believe in fairness, accountability, and economic growth, I say this: reconsider this brewing mistake. Fight for real transformation and economic growth for all South Africans, not only the politically connected few. Scupper this impending disaster of a fund and listen to South Africans. Jobs and growth are what they need, not repackaged policy failures. We are committed to ensuring that this policy does not proceed in its current form. I thank you.
Honourable the Minister of Human Settlements.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madam Deputy Speaker, Honourable President, Honourable Deputy President, Honourable members, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Deputy Speaker, to partake in this important debate following a historic and a groundbreaking State of the Nation address. Honourable President, today's debate coincides with the 35 years release of Madiba from prison. President, you provided, like a statesman, a true statesman, a formalistic, succinct speech befitting of who you are. It's a pity that some had very little of it. We accept even that the ANC gains of governance are now personalized today. In some of the years, they belong to one person alone. Honourable Boshoff, transformation cannot only be determined by you. We will determine it jointly, and the Transformation Fund will go on. If there's nothing that you hate and hate more, it's transformation, and you don't want to see it. Honorable Trump, wherever he sits, has invited you to come and be with him. Go, that's the country that does not need transformation. We need transformation. Honorable Trolley, delusional is you. The president is not delusional. You remain out of the XLSA, out of the GNU, because your friends put you into a minshot, bakushiyulele upemile. Honorable Groenewald, I was born in Petal, the only farming town. The only thing we do in Petal until today is farming. It went to an extent of killing people and putting them underground. The reason why farmers survived before CASP and are still surviving today, it is because of the funds that they were getting annual. Black people and black farmers are successful. Maybe what you should be suggesting is we need to give them more money annually for all those institutional programs to succeed. They are not failures. Honorable Malima, you read part of what President Cyril Ramaphosa said. Let me remind you one thing he said, for example, in the 2024 SONA. He said he will introduce the finance-linked individual subsidy program, which was knownly FLIPS at the time. Today we call it First Home Finances. And as we speak, families between 3,500 and 22,000, 5,082 of them are first-time homeowners assisted by the government of Cyril Ramaphosa after they've been neglected by commercial banks. In the year 2024-25, Honorable President, we are intending to upgrade that program and touch the lives of black people to 140,000. We are partnering with all the Phison Connects Corporation. We are now taking this area to rural areas, this program rather. And we would like to thank the National House of Traditional Leaders, eThekwini eNanda, and the local municipalities, Umlamuli, are already giving us traditional land where we'll finance our black people in rural areas to be first-time homeowners. You spoke about a distribution of land here. We are participating in student accommodation here in the city of Cape Town. Our kids were toy-toying yesterday. But we have already approved 2 settlements of ensuring that student accommodation happens, one in Pela and one in Palo. About 927. Now let me remind you, Democratic Alliance. You only build when there's a constitutional court outcome. I will give you the statistics of how correctly and goodly are you failing to provide human
safety.
Bendilindel. Honourable member at the podium, please take your seat.
Deputy Speaker, this person is speaking like she's in a coffee shop. We're not in a coffee shop here. Please. Whatever she drank, she can't bring it here. I can smell it from here. Please.
Honourable member.
We're not in a shebeen here. Please, man.
Honourable member at the podium, please proceed.
Honorable Pambo, try better. Practice politics uzawuza next year. They will give you the stage next year. Not now. So listen to me as I deal with how the Democratic Alliance is failing to demarcate land. The Bronwell Court outcome at the Constitutional Court just 2 weeks ago show who you are. Forced evictions, taking people out of the community settlements in town, throwing them to 30 kilometers away. Is that the first court outcome? No. The commando outcome, housing, also constitutional court. A transformation fund to the constitutional court, Nizawstall, because constitution can only be determined by you. As I'm about to conclude, I would like to ground off how you do not spent. In 2023 and 2024, Western Cape is Nambamsila. We took back 250 million, which you couldn't spend, and you should have built houses at Danone every December. In our housing development grant, as we speak, you are at 41%, you are likely to lose over 300 million. Go and house people correctly. In the informal settlement grant, you are at 20%. Again, you are going to send money back. Where are the provinces? Limpopo, 64%, KZN, 86%. A national refund where you took back 222 million still screams at you. There's no time to waste. South African wants us to fundamentally change, and we will never be dictated by those who think change can only be determined by them. Yes, I had a coffee shop because Ramaphosa had no finance scheme then. So apply Langoku depend.
I now invite the Honourable Zibi. Order, members. Order, members. Honourable members, I have already called the next speaker. Order. Honourable Zibi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wanted to talk about domestic issues, given the importance of the issues we have to deal with domestically. But we are living in strange times. The U.S. Embassy in South Africa has issued a statement that they are closely monitoring land and farm seizures in South Africa and remain committed to fair and just resolutions. This is obviously untrue. It's a lie, as are many statements the second Trump administration makes about other countries and agencies of the U.S. government itself, such as USAID. These untruths have led to decisions affecting 17% of our HIV/AIDS funding and 15,000 jobs in the related sector. So these are not for casual observation, but deadly serious for us and other developing nations. This is an administration that engages in acts of bullying, such as the use of tariffs and other punishments our international partners like Canada, Mexico, and China have had to endure just in the last 2 weeks alone. We are not exempt from this new dystopian world. The U.S. is one of our largest trading partners, and so this affects the state of our nation in the immediate future. In 2024, we exported 157 billion rand in goods and services to the U.S., while importing just over 120 billion. Mineral product and chemical imports from the U.S. into South Africa amounted to 35 billion, while we exported over 20 billion rand of the same. Exports of vehicles, aircraft, and the like amounted to 35 billion. There are tens of thousands of jobs involved and many more livelihoods. We are joined at the hip, but this deep relationship is about to undergo serious strain, with potentially devastating consequences for South Africa's economy and jobs. Mr. President, we must not be caught napping. It is only a matter of time before we are removed from the AGOA arrangement, and God knows what other consequence. Now is the time to build export and foreign exchange earning streams and to guard jealously trade and other relationships we already have elsewhere in the world. We must act with urgency and speed while being calm and considered in how we respond to a clearly irrational administration across the Atlantic. After all, it is this new government, rather than the American people in general, that want to break apart an enduring relationship built over the decades. Mr. President, we must also consider what is going on in its proper context. There is a concerted effort to undermine democracy, democratic accountability, and an inclusive, equitable world. Social media platforms are being used by that former South African and others to undermine democracy internationally by spreading dangerous misinformation. The truth and accuracy of information are fundamental blocks of democracy, and they are being taken apart daily here in the US and elsewhere. These tech companies no longer do any fact-checking, with dangerous consequences. National consensus on key policy matters is not possible when millions exist in an imaginary universe, such as they are creating. We must use statute and regulation to force them to do fact-checking here or stay out of our country. I am sorry that these previously unimportant matters are coming to the fore on an occasion like this, but complacency is too expensive. What we see unfolding in the US is proof of that. We must act now to protect our economic interest, internal stability, and democracy in general. I also wish to say to those who want to use the opportunity presented by a racist right-wing government in the US to create further problems for us here in South Africa, these are people who do not care about you. They only care about their domestic agenda. We must focus on fixing our own country and building the society we all deserve. I thank you.
Honourable the Minister of Home Affairs.
Madam Deputy Speaker, digital transformation provides our country with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to leapfrog into the future. While countries like Brazil, India, and Estonia have long embraced digitalization to overcome their problems, South Africa has continued to use manual, paper-based systems dating from the previous century and allowed digital platforms that do exist to decay. The Democratic Alliance therefore welcomes the President's embrace of digital transformation in his State of the Nation address. But this must include urgent regulatory reform to the monopoly held by the state information technology, which suffocates technological innovation. If this can be achieved, then the President's announcement indeed creates an opportunity for our country to not only leapfrog into the digital age, but also to harness digital transformation to achieve the apex priority of the Government of National Unity, which is to grow the economy and create jobs. This is our opportunity to re-engineer government itself, where the paperwork, the queues, and the fraud is replaced by secure online systems available at a touch, as the President aptly put it. At the heart of achieving all of this sits Home Affairs. The key to digitalizing government is the creation of a user-friendly digital identity system that is biometrically secured against fraud. Honourable members, just think about the possibilities. A secure digital ID for every person can eliminate fraudulent payments of social grants and NSFAS funding, make identity theft a thing of the past, create a secure digital wallet for IDs, passports, driver's licenses, educational certificates, and other official documents, and enhance the power of the South African passport. Madam Deputy Speaker, these changes will not happen overnight, but we are working flat out to enable all of this through our vision to deliver Home Affairs at home. In terms of this vision, and in addition to building the first components for digital ID, over the next 12 months, the Department of Home Affairs, the Border Management Authority, and Government Printing Works will collectively pursue the following priority reforms. Firstly, and for the first time, we will introduce the option to have IDs and passports securely delivered to the doorsteps of our clients in the same way that banks already deliver debit and credit cards. Secondly, we will engage with banks and retailers to dramatically expand the successful pilot project that delivers Home Affairs services in some bank branches. This project works, but has been limited to only 30 branches for the past decade. I now want to expand it to hundreds or even 1,000 bank branches to enhance access and inclusion and ensure that South Africans in both urban and rural areas can visit their local bank branch to get a new ID or passport. Thirdly, also as part of expanding access and inclusion, we are working to ensure that every person who is legally entitled to a smart ID is able to get one by fixing the IT block that currently still forces naturalized citizens and permanent residents to use the less secure green ID books. And finally, as the President announced, we want to introduce an electronic travel authorization system to begin automating the visa process through machine learning and AI. At the heart of these reforms is a mindset shift that recognizes that data is the currency of the future and that it is the individual that owns their own data. After all, it is your ID, your passport, and your child's birth certificate. This means that the job of government is not to act as a centralized gatekeeper. Instead, just like the job of a bank is to secure your savings while still granting you access to your own money, Home Affairs is the custodian of data, and our job is to ensure decentralized, secure, and efficient access for our clients to their own data. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to acknowledge that South Africans are tired of empty promises. That is why I conclude my remarks today with an announcement that shows how Home Affairs under the GNU is indeed turning words into action. Bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., our brand new digital portal for the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme will go live. Through this portal, vetted tour operators will immediately be able to submit group visa applications to bring many more tourists from India and China to visit beautiful South Africa. This process has been digitalized from beginning to end, and tourists will no longer fill out a single form or stand in a single queue. To illustrate the scale of the change, before TTOS was created, there were only 2 South African missions in China and only 2 missions in India to cater to the needs of the 2.8 billion people living in those 2 countries, many of whom want to come to South Africa as tourists. Going forward, tour operators will submit an online group application and receive the outcome of their application digitally within just 3 days. Importantly, this new system was built in-house by harnessing the talent of the young people on Home Affairs' own software development team. I hope that within a matter of weeks, Minister Patricia de Lille and I will be able to welcome the first airplane full of tourists who would otherwise not have come to spend their money in South Africa. This is Home Affairs demonstrating the power of digital transformation to create jobs. Our commitment is to delivering dignity for all, both by giving people access to services and by driving job creation through visa reform, because nothing on earth delivers dignity like a job. Thank you.
Honourable the Premier of Mpumalanga.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, thanks for your time. Madam Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable Tokodi Diza, Chairperson of the NCOP, Honourable Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, it is an honor for me to participate in this very important SONA debate. Greeting parents in South Africa. Most of them qualify for child support grants, of which Mpumalanga has 1,210,000. These children receive free basic health care. They are enrolled in 1,487 no-fee schools. 1 million learners in Mpumalanga benefit from the National School Nutrition Program. 73,723 learners are ferried to 353 schools daily through the Scholar Transport Program. It doesn't end there, Madam Speaker. This government then pays the tertiary education through NSFAS. We thank you, Honourable President, and your government for coming up with all these initiatives that aim to better the lives of our children in South Africa. You promise, Comrade President, to enact the Bella Act, Expropriation Act, and NHI, and you have done it. We have no doubt that the basic income grant will be implemented. Madam Speaker, we concur with His Excellency President Ramaphosa's most urgent task to grow our economy so that we can create jobs, reduce poverty, and improve the lives of all South Africans. In Mpumalanga, we have since funded 238 youth-owned enterprises at a tune of 258 million through the Premier's Youth Development Fund, an initiative aimed at empowering the youth, women, and disabled people. The province planned to launch the Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market by April 2025. We are engaging with international partners, including Oman and China, to build trading relations and explore markets for agricultural products. On operationalization, 156 jobs will be created on the market floor. A total of 150,000 subsistence farmers and small-scale farmers will have access to trade their products. We are also expecting to create an additional 105,000 jobs at the farm level. A total of 1,600 SMEs, 4 per ward, will be supported to start their own businesses that will trade their products with the market. We aim to increase the tourism industry's contribution to our GDP from 5.8% to 8%. The province plans to increase public and private infrastructure investment through key tourism infrastructure programs like the development of cable car in Maripskop Mountain, Here's a View Waves, the Barberton Makonja World Heritage Site, and many others. The introduction of this new product in the market will increase our market value from 21.6% to over 25% and become the lead province on international arrivals. 23.2% of Mpumalanga's GDP comes from mining, in the main coal mining. Mpumalanga depends heavily on coal as a source of economic value, employment, and energy. Coal is critical in our strategy to drive both economic growth and development in our province. And to achieve our economic growth target of 3%, as announced by the President in his SONA, we support just energy transitions, and there are several projects that are implemented in the province, like the Cyril investment on Mbila Emoyeni wind farm, energy which will create 600 new permanent jobs. But we also support a research on carbon capture, which is being explored in its viability towards mitigating carbon emissions in the region. We invite mining companies that stand to benefit from this research to assist in funding this initiative in the spirit of DDM in Mpumalanga. Kubunyal Tulu, Madam Speaker. Infrastructure development is linked to human development and job creation. We have a date with the President to come and open the state-of-the-art Middleburg Hospital. We are constructing Maplaneng Hospital, Rob Ferreira Radiation Oncology Center, which will enable the province to completely treat cancer patients than relying on Gauteng. The province is making strides towards the successful implementation of the NHI. 287 out of 292 clinics have achieved ideal clinic status, meeting national healthcare standard. 160 clinics meet all required health regulations and are fully certified by the Office of Health Standard and Compliance. Madam Speaker and Chairperson, we are the third best province in the country whose learners have entered grade 10 and completed grade 12 in record time. We have now completed the building of 7 boarding schools which enroll 6,438 learners from farm schools in our 3 district municipalities. We have finalized the planning of the school for the deaf, and the building will commence in the next financial year. Our goal is to have at least 75% of our road network attaining minimum classification of good by 2031. Former President Thabo Mbeki once said, "Gloom and despondency have never defeated adversity. Trying times need courage and resilience. Our strength as a people is not tested during the best of times. We support you, Mr. President, and appreciate your commitment to our nation. We have confidence in your leadership, President CR, particularly when you stated that South Africa is committed to ending poverty, malnutrition, and hunger in line with our National Development Plan. Under your guidance, we believe that our generation can be the one to eradicate poverty. President, you are a trusted and a reliable ally that one can go into war with. As a former member of this House, Dr. Ndlozi finally agrees with the view that ANC deploys competent leaders with integrity, like you, my President. It is good that a scholar can confirm that we have the best interests of the people of South Africa. Ngiyabonga.
Honourable Maimane. Honourable members, order please. Honourable members, order. Honourable Maimane, just a minute. Honourable members, please take your seats.
You are singing for supper.
Honourable members. Please proceed, Honourable Maimane.
Madam Deputy Speaker, President and Deputy President, Honourable members of this House, Bagaetsu Dumelang. Mr. President, I think today marks 35 years since the release of President Nelson Mandela, an emblem that reminds all of us of hope, courage, and justice. It is these features that we must remind ourselves of in times such as this one as we confront massive geopolitical threats. Mr. President, your injunction for us not to be bullied is an important one. I want to urge, Mr. President, there are times such as this one we must remind ourselves to remain united as a nation. When others at this moment, when another murder takes place both in the farm and in the streets, we must remain united. When others say to all of us that the demand for justice, as espoused in our Constitution, is put on the table, we must remain united. When ultimately, Mr. President, there are those who seek narrow interests and find voices from elsewhere, we must remain united. And ultimately, Mr. President, when the hopes of one become the fears of another race, Mr. President, let us build one South Africa, for we must remain united. Ultimately, Mr. President, I listened with great caution to your speech. It was filled with much promise. But, Mr. President, I think we need to use Thursday as an opportunity to move from state of the nation to state of performance. There's a biblical injunction that says this: that a house built on sand cannot stand. our foundations are in trouble, Mr. President. In all reality, when you look at the MTSF that was tabled, 25% indicates the achievements of the last MTSF. Here, Mr. President, we can't pass at 30%. We need a better performance on the next MTSF. Mr. President, our economy has been growing at 1%, and social spending now consumes 60%. I want to urge that our debt is at 5.2 trillion rand, 74% of GDP. If we are going to show that we are serious, our foundations in building must remain strong. Mr. President, you highlight education as a success. I don't disagree with you on the path of the class of 2024. But I also want to remind you, Mr. President, that were we to pass our young people at 50%, 29% of matriculants were passed matric mathematics at 50%, only 30% passed physical science at 50% or more. This is an indicator of the fact that we are going to run short of the skills of the future. So, Mr. President, here's where I want to offer serious partnership. On the first instance, if you really want to see growth, let's cut waste. Let's ensure that we have the cabinet. And if we want 4,000 more police detectives, I say reduce the cabinet and fund the police. On the second instance, let's improve our transport infrastructure. On the third, if we are serious about fighting corruption, Mr. President, the SIU and the NPA are performing at 48% capacity. Let us bring this up to 100% and remove the corrupt elements from either cabinet and also at local government. Lastly, Mr. President, where there are institutions that are not performing, let us merge them so that we create SOEs that can deliver for all South Africans. If this is the year of anything, it must be a year of action. And Mr. President, I implore you, if we are going to be serious, let us build and let us build one South Africa together. I thank you very much.
Honourable members, the next speaker on the list is the Honourable Zungula, but I do not see him. Honourable Zungula.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mandikubulise Mongameli, ndibulise Progressive Caucus, ndinibulise nonke malunga leParlamente. It is clear that unemployment, poverty are deliberately engineered to ensure majority of the people live from hand to mouth. Because when the majority of the citizens live from hand to mouth, their immediate occupation is getting their next meal and not fight for the commanding heights of the economy to be owned by the people. The Labour Department enforcing labour laws on all companies, whether it is in the hospitality, construction, farming industries, would significantly reduce unemployment. The PIC must fund manufacturing-driven initiatives. There can never be economic growth and job creation in a consumerism-driven economy. There are factories all around the country, Mr. President. They are lying idle. There are people who are eager to work, and there's a market for the goods. Why are we importing goods that we can produce in South Africa? Mr. President, our communities cannot be defined by alcohol and drug abuse. We have young kids drinking their future away because they've got nothing to do. There must be a heavy investment in sports and arts infrastructure in the townships and villages. We cannot accept that a black child is more likely to be exposed to drugs and alcohol than schools and sports facilities in the townships. The alcohol culture is stealing our future, and the government must act. Enyobeni and countless incidents of alcohol underage drinking are great examples of this. The government must take unpopular decisions and save the future of this country rather than being popular in a country with no future. There must be harsh penalties on anything that kills our children, who are the future of the country. It is an embarrassment that our kids died of food poisoning, yet foreign spaza shop owners were just requested to register. Mr. President, the spazas selling expired and fake foods will not, the spazas selling fake and expired foods will not be solved by registration. The solution lies in strict enforcement of immigration laws and mass employment of environmental health practitioners. Lastly, all progressives, we need to unite. We are unable to change the material conditions of the people because of our inability to unite. We may have ambitions for ourselves and our parties, but now is the time to center our politics on the interests of the black child. The Boers and the British united in 1902 to oppress the natives and created laws that up until this day benefit them. No matter how much they hated each other and how many people died in the Anglo-Boer War, they found it in them to unite so they can create a better life for their people. In these 30 years of democracy, it is evident we cannot undo the over 400 years of colonization and oppression without us uniting. Let us unite to expropriate the land our ancestors were forcefully removed from. The majority must own the mineral wealth, and we must transform the economy to ensure the majority, the African majority, enjoy a good quality of life. Generations after us must remember us as a generation that put the interests of the black child ahead of our own. Masimanyane mzi onsundu, siguqule impilo zabantu, singaphathwa ngondlebe zikhanya ilanga. Eli lizwe lolokhokho bethu, lelabantu abamnyama. Thank you.
The Honourable the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Presiding officers, President and Deputy President, honorable members of this House. Nearly 5 years ago, on the 15th of October 2020, Mr. President, you stood in front of this House and presented to Parliament the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan as a response to sluggish economic growth impacted by deadly COVID-19. At that time, you characterized, Mr. President, infrastructure development as a flywheel on which our country should rebuild its economy due to its multiplier effect. Subsequently, Infrastructure South Africa was established under Minister Cyril and Dr. Ramaphosa. Since then, ISA has been championing infrastructure delivery as a single point of entry for infrastructure planning, management, and delivery. This was followed by the establishment of Infrastructure Fund as an added instrument to provide blended finance. Under the sixth administration, 268 individual projects were gazetted. 82 of these projects are already under construction with an approximate value of 437 billion. The latest 12 projects that are ready for implementation that the President referred to in the SONA were packaged and included in the construction book that we launched in March 2024 under the sixth administration. Factually, this demystified the myth that things are happening only now because there are new parties in government. Never mind that these parties boarded a train already rolling and delivering tangible results. Like Honorable Steenhuisen, They all speak as if everything is new. They are not in the habit of giving credit where it is due. It is not in their nature to acknowledge work done by others, simply because they are obsessed to claim easy victories out of desperation to woo South African vote.
Speaker.
Honourable member at the podium, please take your seat. Honourable member, Honourable Adams.
Yes, Speaker, thank you. I was just inquiring if the Deputy Minister is referring to the apples that went to Thailand. Thank you.
Honourable member, that is not a point of order and it is not allowed. Honourable members, please also do not make spurious points. It will be ruled out of order. Honourable Deputy Minister, please proceed.
They do not give accolades where it is true, not because of anything but hypocrisy and disrespect of the process of knowledge development. They do not value knowledge development. They have no appreciation that plagiarism is frowned upon among knowledge community and scholars. Anyway.
Order, honourable members. Honourable members on both sides of the House. Honourable members. Honourable Deputy Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members on both sides. We will sit until you now decide that the Honourable Deputy Minister has an audience that he can speak to and that he is not drowned out. You have been warned a number of times. So please settle down and keep any of your comments at a pace and at a tempo and at a volume that does not disrupt the speaker on both sides. Honourable Deputy Minister, please proceed.
They do not.
Honourable members, please act orderly. Please allow the Deputy Minister to speak. We have allowed all the speakers to speak without interruption. Deputy Minister, please proceed.
Anyway, plagiarism and data integrity are not taught at a basic education level, yet
Honourable members,
yet they are...
Honourable Deputy Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members, and I'm speaking specifically to the members of the EFF and the members of the ANC. Your behaviour is unacceptable. And honourable members, I can, however, also ask you to leave should it be necessary, but it is not at this point. I do trust. Honourable members, can we please proceed with the necessary decorum of this House? Because at this point, there is no decorum on your side. Honourable Deputy Minister, please proceed.
Honourable Speaker.
Order, Speaker.
Honourable Deputy Minister, please take your seat. Yes, Honourable Member, please state the point and the rule on which you are rising.
Speaker, you can't single out the EFF because the whole House is clapping except the TA. So you can't say it's the EFF that is being disruptive. Everyone is welcoming the comments of the Minister.
Honourable Member, please
it's only the
seat.
TA that is not clapping.
Honourable Member, please take your seat. You were making such a noise that you did not hear what I say. I said the members of the EFF and members of the ANC. but you didn't hear it because you are too loud. Deputy Minister, please proceed.
Our country and the world have been bombarded with a propaganda and deliberate misinformation about Expropriation Act recently assented to by the President. The Act empowers the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure to expropriate land and assets only in the public interest. We have in our country the Office of Valuer General, but on the implementation of the Act, one, we need to ensure that the expropriation, the one who owns the property is engaged, there are negotiations. Secondly, there is a valuer who assesses the property. All of these four guarantees ensure the security of tenure and property rights in South Africa. The misinformation about land grab and all other falsehoods are rather unfortunate, whereas when a minister publicly says the act will not be implemented when he is still in the office. Many ministers take an oath of office, committing that they will obey and uphold all the Constitution and all other laws of the Republic, that they will uphold their offices conscientiously. Therefore, such a response is not only unfortunate, but bear the need for self-development. I must say, there are many ministers who would have not been comfortable with other acts, but upon taking the office, they implement them. Well, we are seeing what was perfectly described by the late Tumsan Makaye some time ago. Shombela said, when racism is combined with ignorance, they produce arrogance. Expropriation is not only implemented in South Africa, it is implemented throughout the world. In the United States, they call it eminent domain. In Singapore and India, they call it land acquisition. In New Zealand, Ireland, and UK, they call it compulsory purchase. In Russia, Canada, and Brazil, they call it expropriation. The main issue here is that the ANC cares more than anyone in this House. We want to achieve land reform while ensuring investor confidence to grow the economy and create jobs. Honorable Chair, least said about the debate of Honorable Dr. Hlophe, the better. We were left confused whether it was a debate on SONA or praise singing. But he perfectly demonstrated that their organization is nothing but only hell-bent on personality cult, and it's an entity solely owned by one person whom they pray on daily basis as their semi-god. As a developmental state, our approach on infrastructure development covers all areas. As we talk today, we have delivered 40 Welisizwe bridges in 6 provinces before the end of completed bridges in Northwest alone. This government is a government of all people of South Africa. Let us unite to address all social ills. Former President Mbeki, addressing the South African National Editors Forum, said, as I quote, "Report Africa to Africans and report Africa as South Africans." Let us report South Africa to ourselves and the world, but report South Africa as South African. I thank you.
The Honourable Honourable the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. His Excellency President Ramaphosa, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, presiding officers, honorable members. This year we celebrate 70 years since black people were forcefully removed from their homes in Sophia town to be resettled in Meadowlands, Soweto, where I was born. It also marks 30 years since the inaction of the Constitutional Court, whose current building at Constitutional Hill was partly constructed using bricks from the demolished awaiting trial wing of the former number 4 prison. Honourable members, this is a stark reminder, especially of those who now have selective amnesia, that the South Africa we live in today, its challenges were born out of apartheid regime's forceful displacement, deliberate impoverishment and oppression of black people in particular. Honourable members, it is important for us to acknowledge that having to deal with the future, we've got to acknowledge the past. Since the dawn of democracy, South Africans have been striving to live together in harmony despite our deeply past, painful past and wide economic disparities. What brings us together is a genuine belief that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity, and that only sustainable, centripetal force for our unity is creation of the condition for the wealth of this country to be shared amongst all its people. We should not allow forces of destruction, internally or externally, to instigate racial divisions and distract us from building a united, democratic and prosperous country. That's why we will urge the AfriForum, like they did previously, to taking selfies when they went to US, to get the first flight out and sort out the mess that they've created. Honourable members, left unattended, corruption deprives South Africa of resources which are meant for their development and well-being. It is therefore our patriotic duty to increase the efforts in ridding the country of all corrupt practices so that we can create a truly ethical and capable developmental state. It requires us to fight corruption by working together, ensuring that we eliminate corrupt practices that necessitates and that kills our institutions and their capacity. We have seen in the state capture, in the era of state capture, where institutions that were meant to fight corruption, individuals who were meant to fight corruption, turning into becoming enablers of corruption. To strengthen this institution and avoid the recurrence of state capture, the department will lead efforts on the review of the anti-corruption architecture. This review will be meant to eradicate duplication of mandates, will ensure that resource allocation are optimized, but will ensure that also we build, as we committed, a world-class digital forensic lab so that when NPA send cases to court are not withdrawn, but they are prosecuted and successfully so. Honourable Maimani, to close the gap in terms of capacity within NPA, I can confirm that January this year, we have developed and approved guidelines for Section 38 appointments for prosecutors. Through these guidelines, the appointments will be effective, efficient, and more importantly, will avoid subjectivity, and the turnaround time of these appointments will be quicker so that we can have men and foot on the ground to be able to conclude the cases. As part of building and rebuilding efforts of our institutions, all employees within the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development and all the institutions that fall under it will be subjected and will undergo lifestyle audits as per the directive of the President. The first phase will include all categorized as SMS in the department, state attorneys' offices, prosecutors, investigators, the officials in the sheriff's offices, and the master's office. We will then go further to subject all employees who will deal with appointments of liquidators and administer the guardian fund to full vetting irrespective of their position, like those in supply chain we are doing. This is to ensure, honourable members, This is to ensure, honorable members, that those who lead the fight against corruption and malfeasance in our society are not themselves implicated in wrongdoing that compromises and weakens institutions in which they discharge their responsibilities. Our fight against corruption has already started to yield results. Through its effective investigation, speedy litigation, and recovery processes, the SIU saved the South African government almost 8 billion in 2023 and 24. The amounts that have been recovered again in terms of prevention that they've been able to do is 2.28 billion in actual cash. Prevention actually in terms of state losses, where they've been able to stop contracts that were illegally done and not properly done, it's to the value of 2.13 billion. So this is setting aside contracts that are not properly awarded. Honorable members, we will further ensure that SIU is capacitated, and I have written to all ministers, premiers, and mayors who owe SIU money to be able to pay this money that is outstanding, so that SIU can have the resources to be able to conclude their investigation within time. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been an outcry in the country about the framework for protection of whistleblowers. A benchmark exercise was conducted on best practices on whistleblower protection, and we have been found wanting when we compare to the world. In response to this, the department is finalizing a whistleblower protection framework that addresses the current weakness. We will come to the House to present a whistleblower protection bill that will ensure that whistleblowers are protected as the important part of ensuring that we can fight corruption in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight against gender-based violence and femicide remains critical. We have to continue our work to ensure that women and people with disability and children feel protected within our society. It is within this call that we have called for the release of the National Register of Sexual Offenders to be made public. We will do this in phased approach. There has been those who are saying that we must continue to put it secret, and we believe that this is important for us to release to the public. This is to protect children who are in schools, to protect children who are in ECD, to ensure that those, as per the Children's Act, that are exposed to children and are not found wanting. We will do this responsibly and ensure that we do not violate the laws. We will amend the clause that is talking to confidentiality in this regard. We are increasing our work around Tutuzela care centers to be able to empower women, but also those who work to be able to ensure that we can be able to see successful conviction. We are currently sitting at 72.5% with NPA being able to get successful convictions. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to raise the following: that if we do not work together to ensure that we build a better country, we will not have the future to talk about. It is the responsibility of all of us to be able to stand and do what is best in fighting GBVF, in fighting corruption in our country. Let me conclude by quoting the Emperor Selassie of Ethiopia.
Honourable Minister, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now call on the Honourable Minister of Basic Education.
Chairperson, millions of children in South Africa, for millions of children in South Africa, education is the bridge between poverty and opportunity. It is the ticket out of their current circumstances into a better future. And that is why the chronic underfunding in this sector has had devastating effects, not just to the education sector, but to the future of South Africa's greatest assets, its young people. Prolonged underfunding due to poor policy decision-making over the years has undermined the delivery of frontline services. Currently, we are unable to meet the demand for the teachers that we need. Classes are overcrowded. Kwilali nakwindawo ezisemaphandleni kusekho izikolo ezingekho semgangathweni ezibangela ubungozi ebantwaneni bokufunda. And in many cities, parents are struggling to find places for their children in schools. And all of these realities, members, make it difficult for quality learning and teaching to take place. And it is for this reason that we need to move with urgency to turn the situation around. Our reforms must be clear, they must be swift, and indeed, Minister of Finance, they must be funded. In just 7 months, the Department of Basic Education has worked tirelessly to address long-standing challenges that our schooling system is facing. We've started to reorientate the system towards improving quality early learning. Research has shown that investment in early child learning will yield powerful dividends later in life and indeed for our economic prospects. This is key to ensuring that our children have strong learning foundations that will unlock opportunities for them to excel in school and to participate in our economy. And so to achieve this, we are focusing on the following: expanding ECD access for children, ensuring that the Funza Lushaka bursary scheme prioritizes students pursuing foundation phase teaching, reviewing the post-provisioning norms to reduce large class sizes and improve learning outcomes in the foundation phase, updating the national catalogue of learning and teaching material, and protecting teaching and learning time. Chair, the quality of teaching and learning cannot take place in a learning environment that lack dignity and are unsafe. And that is why we remain resolute in eradicating all pit toilets that were identified in 2018 by March 2025. And while this is proving to be incredibly challenging, it is a moral imperative that we dare not give up on. Ngapha koko kukhona izikolo eziyi-1000 ebezingena toilets ezifumene ukubonelelwa zakhelwa. To improve accountability at a provincial level for the rollout of school infrastructure, we will review the regulations that speak to the norms and standards of public school infrastructure. Governments must be held accountable by their citizens and the recipients of their services. And South Africans must know that in us, they have a responsible and a responsive government. To improve safety of school infrastructure, with the help of a corporate partner, Vodacom, we've launched the Safe Schools application, a digital platform that empowers communities to report issues of unsafe toilets and monitor school infrastructure in real time. And to combat crime in schools, we are fast-tracking the vetting of educators against the National Register for Sex Offenders. And that's why we welcome making this public, Minister of Constitutional Development. Chairperson, the Bella Act implementation continues. As indicated by the President in the SONA, we are busy finalizing regulations that will go out for public comment and input. Ultimately, these guidelines and regulations must be implemented in a manner that protects the learner, that protects the teacher, and that protects our schools. I will not tolerate the politicization of this act in a way that affects our children and distracts them from teaching and learning. As part of efforts to improve quality outcomes in the education sector, we are convening the National Education and Training Council. This advisory body members will be composed of experts from across the education sector that will provide guidance for us on how we strengthen the funding model for public schools, how do we improve literacy and numeracy across phases, how do we integrate early child learning into the schooling system, and how do we review the pass rate requirements across all phases, including at a matric level. Mr. President, the DA has taken its role in the government of national unity very seriously. We remain committed ensuring that learners have access to quality teachers, safe school environments, and that they have the necessary resources they need to succeed. If this GNU moves with the required urgency and conviction, it will mean greater stability, economic growth, and opportunity for all South Africans. While some opposition parties in this House would rather see the country collapse under the weight of populism and economic ruin, Kaloku mongameli sithunyiwe eburhulumenteni ngabantu ebebephelelwe lithemba. Asinoze ke sizobadanisa ngoku.
Honourable Minister, your
The future
time
of
has
South
expired.
Africa, the future
Thank
of
you.
South Africa depends on the education we provide today.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now call the Deputy Minister of Social Development. I don't see the... Okay, I see the Deputy Minister coming. Thank you.
Honourable House Chair, I remember that when His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa gave us a national address in the City Hall, I gave him 10 out of 10. And I also said that behind every president, there's a First Lady. In this SONA address, Your Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, you did much better. I also want to refer to the class of 24, and we all stood up and gave the class of 24 a standing ovation. President, the reason I say you are doing better is because the class of 2025 will be even better. You know, President, that social beneficiaries will have the biggest slice of the budget to eradicate food poverty in the midterm development plan and also highlighted in your SONA address. A whopping 200 billion rand plus. President, we must be ready to cheer the class of 2025. There will be 800,000 learners writing the grade 12 examination. 600,000 are social grant beneficiaries. 81% of the class of 2025 will make up those who are successful. 300,000 of social grant beneficiaries will automatically qualify for NSFAS bursaries, nearly 50%. This indicates that the investment government is making in the lives of the poor and vulnerable children is yielding positive impacts in breaking intergenerational poverty. In the midterm development plan, provision is made for best practice in terms of the Bella Act to give grade R learners world-class foundational education. The plan also provides for government to look after children for the first 1,000 days of their lives. We also address the needs of unborn babies in teenagers. So we turned around the stunting catastrophe we have in South Africa. It cannot be that 20% of children are doomed to be stunted. We celebrated New Year's Day and 27% of those children were stunted. House Chair, please don't rule me out of order, but 27% of honourable members in this House are also stunted according to the statistics. We cannot have a situation where 20% of the population of South Africa are stunted. Addressing the challenges of poverty and inequality is implementing a robust and focused pro-poor policy. One of the SONA promises is to reduce the high cost of living. Government social welfare beneficiaries buy 200 billion of groceries from Shoprite, Pick n Pay, Woolworths and Spar. They need to put back some of their profits into social development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker to the podium will be the Honourable Adams.
Chairperson, Honorable President, Honorable Deputy President, Madam Speaker, colleagues, the Progressive Caucus. Mr. President, there are two things I took from your speech. The one was that all of South Africa should mourn the loss of our boys in the DRC. It is a sad moment for this country. But it was countered, Mr. President, by the fact that we can send our boys to go and guard the minerals in another country, but we can't deal with the Zamas at home. The second thing, Mr. President, and I want to laud you for this, was congratulations for telling Donald Trump to sit down, because this is South Africa. This is not a colony of the USA. Well done, Mr. President. I want to commend you, Mr. President, for your stance on the Palestinian issue in defiance of those people who you call your GNU partners. But I want to ask you a question, Mr. President. In September of 2024, was David Barnea the head of Israeli Mossad in this country? And did you meet with him? Chairperson, Honorable President, Honorable Deputy President, Madam Speaker, colleagues, the Progressive Caucus. Mr. President, there are two things I took from your speech. The one was that all of South Africa should mourn the loss of our boys in the DRC. It is a sad moment for this country. But it was countered, Mr. President, by the fact that we can send our boys to go and guard the minerals in another country, but we can't deal with the Zama-Zamas at home. The second thing, Mr. President, and I want to laud you for this, was congratulations for telling Donald Trump to sit down, because this is South Africa. This is not a colony of the USA. Well done, Mr. President. I want to commend you, Mr. President, for your stance on the Palestinian issue in defiance of those people who you call your GNU partners. But I want to ask you a question, Mr. President. In September of 2024, was David Barnea the head of Israeli Mossad in this country? And did you meet with him? The country needs to know. I want to say to you, Mr. President, I want to address our Honorable Minister of Agriculture, who comes up here and he speaks all type of dribble. He should go home and listen to his recording. Because he speaks of 9 wasted years. Let me give you a man of color's perspective. Under Jacob Zuma, if you had HIV, it was 9 sweet years because he saved lives. Under Jacob Zuma, if you were a construction worker like I, there was lots of work and lots of growth. It was a good time to be a construction worker. Under Jacob Zuma, a bread cost my mother 10 rand. Today it costs 21. I note, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, that you took the credit for sending apples to Thailand. Tell us the truth. Whose work was it really? Because I just heard the Honorable Deputy Minister of Public Works come on the stage and say things about the GNU that makes me want to welcome the EFF in the crossover to become government. I think it's necessary. I think it is time. I want to say to you, Mr. President, you can correct your mistake. There is time, because I heard a man stand here wanting to engage the Minister of Police about cattle theft. But my boys are dying 10 at a time on the Cape Flats per day. He does not speak to SAPS about that. A white man's sheep is more important than colored lives to Honorable John Steenhuisen. He has the temerity to come and stand here and talk to us about education. But his government cut our schools by 2,400 teachers and took care to protect white public schools from the losses. Mr. President, you need to encourage the minister that it is okay to be stupid. It is okay to be a hypocrite. It is okay to be a racist, but to be a combination of the three, that is not okay. Not even here. I want to say, Mr. President, there are like-minded people sitting on the left. Lean to the left. The answers are on the left. Mr. President, these people will never see eye to eye with us because they are not like us. There are many white people willing to make contributions. Good white people, skilled white people, like Cameron Dugmore. Why the DA insists on giving us that, we will never know. But understand, Mr. President, they cannot feel our pain because they are not like us. They cannot speak to our hunger because they are not like us. We want our land back. Helen Zille is fighting land expropriation. She's fighting land expropriation on the grounds that it is a crime against humanity. We were evicted. We were evicted, President. Are we not human?
Thank you,
Are they
Honourable
admitting
Member.
that they don't see us as human? Thank you.
Thank you. The next Honourable Member is Honourable Peter. Honourable Peter.
Manbulise, ndicela ukhuselwa chairperson. Ndicela ukhuselwa chairperson.
Order, Honourable Members. Allow the member on the platform to speak. Thank you.
Disrupted by the time.
Mandibulise Sihlalo wendlu ndibulise kumongameli njengo number 1 kweli lizwe. Ndibulise kubantu boMzantsi Afrika ndicela indlebe bandimamele ukuba ndizawuthini ndiyi-UDM. Mongameli ohloniphekileyo weli lizwe, sime kulo mzi namhlanje sisizwe esithokombise intloko. Sijonge ezantsi mongameli. Izikhalo zabemi beli lizwe zisitsho mbombozone mongameli. Abemi bejonge enkalweni igazi labantakwethu liphala lamhla nezolo. Asiluvanga ukhuseleko lwabo kwintetha yakho mongameli. Noxa nje izolo ubume phambi kwabemi beli lizwe, uthatha isifungo uvuma ngomlomo wakho usithi, mna mongameli weli lizwe ndiyakubakhusela abemi beli lizwe. Ndiyakuba sisicaka sabo ndibakhonze. Incwadi yezikumkani zesibini isahluko sesibini umqolo ngowe-19 ufundeka ngolu hlobo mongameli. Mhle lo mzi kodwa amanzi awo amuncu, nomhlaba lo awunikisi nto. Ubuhle bethu apha mongameli asilolutho eluntwini olusivoteleyo ngoba bayafa namhlanje, akho nto ithethayo ngaloo nto. Si-UDM ke mongameli sihlinika nabantu bezwe, sikubongoza mongameli, sisithi njengoko kunje kuyini na ukuba kube nje. Sesantoni na isijwili esiphezu kwentloko zethu, ngobani na aba ubakhuseleyo xa ingengabo abemi beli lizwe. Sihlaba ikhwelo ke mongameli, nqanda bayaphela abantu kodwa amehlo ejongile. Si-UDM siyalichasa uphulo kwanophucula oomasipala nenkqubo entsha abazawusebenza ngayo. Kwaneziseko ke mongameli sinethemba lawuzisa inguqu. Siyaphinda si-UDM siyayixhasa mongameli ngokupheleleyo urhulumente xa ezibandakanya kwi-NHI. Kodwa mongameli sifuna uyazi ukuba le NHI izawuqhutywa njani ngoba izibhedlele zethu zime maqongo neekliniki zethu azinamayeza mongameli. Yiloo ngxaki sisithi siyayixhasa wena i-NHI kodwa sinesijwili. Mongameli sicela kwananjalo urhulumente ukuba akhawulezise nokwandlala imicelimngeni ejongene nezibhedlele zethu. Okwesibini President, sihlalo wendlu eli lizwe lisebugqwayibeni. I-UDM ixhalabile ngakumbi ngemeko karhulumente ukuba kaziba uzawukwazi na ukuzifezekisa izithembiso ngezigidigidi aye wazikhankanya kwintetha yesizwe edlulileyo kuba ezoqoqosho zingentle. Umzekelo mongameli ukhankanye i-100 billion. Usithi mongameli le 100 billion iyawunceda abemi beli lizwe. Sinomdla ke mongameli ukuba le 100 billion ikwazi ukungena kwezoqoqosho ukuze nalamafama amnyama angajongele ntweni kwangurhulumente wakho akwazi ukuxhamla. Nabantu basezilalini abakwazi ukulima, imihlaba ilele, iinkosi azinamandla, azikwazi ukwenza nto mongameli. Si-order nemilimili le saphoba silima apha eSouth Africa. Siyathemba ke mongameli xa sizixhasa ezi zindululo asisixhasi kuba siyi-GNU, sizixhasa kuba sifuna uMzantsi Afrika.
Die Law Enforcement Advancement Program het meer polisieering op die grond geplaas. Dwelmanhoudings verdubbel en teruggedruk teen die bedeende geweld van wat nasionale strategie vastgevang het en lang prosesse gevat om die misdaad in Suid-Afrika te veg. As ons ernstig is oor misdaadbekamping, kan ons nie vasklou aan mislukte eenvormige nasionale model nie. Provinsies moet die maag hê om hulle eie mense te beskerm. En ons in die DA sal nie ophou veg voordat 'n werklikheid word nie. Re dira boikuelo go wena mo president le tona ya sepodisi go tokafatsa seemo le serodumo sa tirelo ya sepodisi mo Aforika Borwa. A re gagamatseng ka thata gore baagi botlhe ba naga ya rona ba ne ba babalesegile ka dinako. Pabalesego ya baagi ba rona e botlhokwa thata. Ke a leboga. I thank you. Baie dankie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mokhai. The next speaker was supposed to be from the UAT, but I've been informed that there was no name put forward, and there's no member from the UAT. So we'll move on to the next speaker, and that will be the Honorable Cuthbert. To the podium, please.
Thank you, House Chairperson. During the ANC's anniversary celebration last month, President Ramaphosa informed party supporters that establishing the government of national unity was a strategic decision to advance the national democratic revolution in light of last year's electoral setback. President Ramaphosa correctly pointed out that the ANC's electoral setback forced it to work with other parties. However, he mistakenly suggested that the GNU should be the vehicle to advance the NDR. It is precisely the policies and laws associated with the NDR that led voters to abandon the ANC, thereby paving the way for a multi-party government to enter the union buildings to deliver on the promise of growth and jobs. If we are being brutally honest, all partners in the GNU recognize that the policy direction taken by the government over the past 30 years did not work and that it was time for something new. Over the past 7 months, we have begun to see the benefits of working together in the interest of all South Africans. Investor confidence has risen, our currency has strengthened, and our growth outlook has improved. Most importantly, for the first time in many years, South Africans have a tangible sense of hope, a fact that we should not take for granted. We must capitalize on this opportunity to implement a comprehensive set of reforms. These reforms include pursuing an aggressive debt reduction strategy to ensure that we live within our means and restore macroeconomic stability, expediting the private sector's involvement in energy generation and transmission within 12 months to create a truly competitive energy market, finalizing port and rail concession agreements with private partners by the end of the year to enhance competitiveness and position ourselves as an export-oriented economy, reviewing existing duties and tariffs which hinder trade and make goods more expensive for South African consumers. And lastly, removing the extension of collective bargaining council wage agreements for SMMEs, which obstructs hiring and contributes towards our unemployment crisis. However, these reforms will be futile if the ANC continues to pursue its destructive NDR laws and policies, such as the National Health Insurance Act, the Expropriation Act, and the Transformation Fund. Whilst we welcome the removal of the NHI targets from the medium-term development plan, it is only the first step in ensuring that private healthcare is protected and universal healthcare coverage is realized. The NHI Act requires substantive legislative amendments to achieve universal healthcare coverage and prevent our fiscus from collapsing. The only way to realize universal healthcare coverage is by improving the governance of the public healthcare system and making it easier and more affordable for individuals to access private medical aid. Furthermore, the recent enactment of the Expropriation Act has wrought havoc both domestically and abroad. It has created significant uncertainty for both domestic and international investors, undermined property rights, and triggered a backlash from our long-standing and valued trading partner, the United States of America. This comes at a critical time when our continued participation in the America Growth and Opportunity Act and critical aid funding are under review. Understanding the grave risk this poses to the South African economy, the DA invoked Clause 19.3 of the Statement of Intent and will soon challenge the Expropriation Act in court to ensure that property rights, as enshrined in Section 25 of the Constitution, are protected. The most recent manifestation of the ANC's relentless approach to race-based legislation is the 100 billion rand transformation fund. Despite empirical evidence suggesting that these race-based policies have failed to uplift the vast majority of South Africans while only benefiting a politically connected elite. Instead, South Africa needs means-based redress that targets poverty as a proxy for disadvantage as opposed to race. This ensures that we address the historical injustices of the past while encouraging investment and job creation. Mr. President, the DA will not be a party to laws and policies which seek to entrench the NDR at the expense of growth and jobs. Make no mistake, we will use our position in government and in Parliament to block laws and policies that seek to destroy the South African economy and wreck our citizens' livelihoods. Mr. President, we joined the GNU to drive growth up and unemployment numbers down. However, we can only achieve this by implementing a fresh policy reform agenda at greater depth and greater speed. House Chair, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker to the podium is the Honourable Premier of the Northern Cape.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Let me pass my greetings to the Chair of the NCOP, greet His Excellency, the President of South Africa, His Excellency, the Deputy President, honorable members of the National Assembly and NCOP, dames en heren, ek dra groete van die Noord-Kaapse mense. Let me commend the President, His Excellency, President Ramaphosa, for delivering a forthright and forward-looking State of the Nation address. The SONA laid out a clear vision accompanied by pragmatic responses to grow the economy, create the much-needed job opportunities, re-industrialize the country, massive investment in infrastructure, and expanding our social wage wallet to cushion the poor and the working class. There is a vision and a plan, and that is leadership, Comrade President, and not turbocharged cheap populism by motto mouth Trump equivalents in here who never disappoint. Honorable Speaker, after the 2024 elections, the ANC played a pivotal and pioneering role in the establishment of the GNU. Since, I have attended 3 meetings of the GNU, and as the province, we hosted 4 ministers, 6 deputy ministers. All these activities left me with an emblematic impression that despite the enormous challenges in the operational aspects of the GNU, it will run its full term. It's not going to collapse. This is good for political stability in the country. We need to thank the participating parties in the GNU for their ability to shun politics of brinkmanship. Madam Speaker, a first-year student in geopolitics will tell you that the US is very nervous since the beginning of the 3rd decade of the 21st century, because there is a real strategic contender on the horizon for global leadership, which is China. What frustrates the North is that this contender is coming from the South, former third world country, and now a developing economy, bolstered by the BRICS outfit. This strategic contender is surging and not pulling back an inch. So we are trapped in a battle of giants. In this, we support the President in his brave assertion that we will not be bullied by a rogue superpower. I firmly believe that with our collective resolve and determination, as a people, we can handle anything thrown on us, even by this fading captain of imperialism. These ill-conceived White House executive orders are certainly going to spark and fuel racial tension in the country that still resides vivid memories of racial oppression, economic exploitation and exclusion of blacks. Black poverty and economic marginalization is a systemic function of the penetrative impact of apartheid colonialism in South Africa. A very big section of the white population in the country is disgusted and enraged by these executive orders. Honorable Speaker, just yesterday at the airport, I met a very enraged white middle-aged lady called Magdalena. Magdalena and her husband own 16 farms, and the hectareage of those farms combined is bigger than Kimberley. And she understands the need for expropriation of land. She inquired whether I was flying out to attend the SONA debate en toe het sy my baie mooi gevra om die boodskap aan al die leerders van parlement hier te bring. Dat sy sê, Trump se moer en ook hulle se moer die wat Big Daddy Trump in ons land betrokke maak. That's the message from Magdalena, who's a white middle-aged lady who owns about 16 farms in the country. Honorable Speaker, 2024 marked the last lap of the 6th administration and was a good year for the Northern Cape. In the first 3 quarters of 2024, the Northern Cape economy created 27,000 new jobs, and that put the Northern Cape on the 2nd spot as the province with the lowest unemployment. This morning, as we are gathered here this morning, 331,000 people clocked at employment places in the Northern Cape. Highest ever figure of employment in the history of the province. Our GDP, Honorable Speaker, per region in 2024 was 152 billion rand, which marked a 35 billion rand increase from the 117 billion rand in 2019. The major contributing factors to this growth were mining, renewable energy, and government spending in infrastructure. Last year, Honorable Speaker, we recorded a 5 years cumulative expenditure of about 25 billion rand investment in infrastructure. This accounts for 19 modern schools, state-of-the-art schools that we built, 11 clinics, road, libraries, water, and eradication of bucket projects. The Namakwa Special Economic Zone was designated by Minister Ibrahim Patel. I would love this House to give the Minister in his absence a nice round of applause. We launched our first phase, 1 billion rand housing project, and contractors are on site building houses for the people of the Northern Cape. In 2024, SANRAL commenced with the implementation of the 14 billion rand road maintenance project. I'm certain those of you who are using our roads can bear testimony that there is significant and visible improvement in the quality of the roads in the Northern Cape. With former Minister Mkhunu, we launched the completed 1.7 billion rand first phase of the Valga-Magara water project in John Taolo-Gaetsewe region. Comrade President, with the massive infrastructure investment, we must include the 10 billion rand second phase of this project that will see more than 200 villages having improved access to clean water. In 2024, the 2.5 billion rand BFI-funded project commenced in Solplaatje municipality, aimed at repairs to bulk water supply infrastructure. We also recorded a decrease in 15 of the 17 priority crimes. Northern Cape is now the safest province in the country. In 2024, 8 clean audits, which marked the highest ever in the history of the Northern Cape administration. The pass rate for 2024 was considerably increased with 8.4%, which is the best improved province in the country, from 75.8% to 84.19%. Over the past 5 years, we have seen a steady growth of our matric pass rate from 66% to 84.9%. This represents 18% increase. Honorable Speaker, to build on this momentum, we are in a process of finalizing the Provincial Infrastructure Plan 2040 and Provincial Job Creation Strategy 2030. It is in this breath that we welcome the President's announcement of the national government's commitment to Buchu Bay Port and Rail Infrastructure Project and the intended government 940 billion rand investment on infrastructure. Implementation of the Buchu Bay Port and Rail Infrastructure will alleviate the port gridlock that we are currently confronted with as a country. And it will also change the socio-economic landscape in the province.
Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The next speaker to the podium will be the Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Honorable President, Deputy President, and members of the House, Premier Sou, sê vir Tannie Magda, ek stem saam met haar, sy ma se. Dankie. Mr. President, a lot is being said here about America today. I am not going to waste my time because Trump only deserves the middle finger. It is his constitutional right to be stupid. Let me turn to serious business. Mr. President, we welcome your commitment to the founding principles contained in the Government of National Unity and the Statement of Intent to reduce poverty, reduce the cost of living, and address the indignity in which many of our people live. However, we must acknowledge that regardless of all the noise, both locally and internationally, South Africa has constitutional and moral obligations to transform society, to narrow inequality, and create a nation in which all citizens have a stake. Section 27 of our Constitution guarantees the right to access to basic needs, including health care, food, water, and social security. It also places the onus on the state to take reasonable steps to ensure that these rights are met. And already we have got the Grootboom Constitutional Court judgment to this effect. The SRD grant has played a critical role in keeping millions afloat, but it remains insufficient to lift our people out of extreme poverty. The GNU needs to implement the safety net. We all agreed to reduce poverty in the Statement of Intent and implement the basic income grant. A properly structured basic income grant would not just be a welfare measure, it would be an economic stimulus, increasing consumer spending, supporting small businesses, and create demand-driven job opportunities. Honourable Deputy Speaker, on the tourism front, we have made great strides in the past year, and a key success has been our work with Operation Vulindlela and the Presidency, the State Security Agency, and the Department of Home Affairs on the visa regime. As stated by the President in SONA, that we will continue to enhance our visa system to make it easier for skilled people to invest in our country and grow tourism. The Department of Tourism will use the visa enablers, the electronic travel authorization, the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme, and the Digital Nomad to grow tourism targeting India and China. As the tourism sector, I want to commend and thank the Minister of Home Affairs and his team for the impressive gains made on the visa regime front. Tourism in India and China, they are very excited about this new initiative, and we cannot wait to reap the rewards of the progress in the coming months. As stated by President in SONA, that the diversity, the energy, the talent of the South African people is our greatest asset. And I must take this time to thank each and every person in the tourism sector for all their hard work and contributions to our growing sector. And I wish to thank them in advance for the work that we will continue to do. Another key development is on the 4th of December 2024, Cabinet approved the route development marketing strategy to be implemented from the 1st of April 2025.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Your time has expired. The next speaker to the podium will be the Honourable Cyril.
Mabandla kamjuka nakandaba sizwe sikamthaniya Commander-in-Chief Julius Cyril Malema, all the officials, commissars, selfless activists of the EFF, and all the progressive forces who stood up and spoke out when President Malema was once again under attack by Western imperialists who are provoked by our resolve to attain economic freedom in our lifetime. Revolutionary greetings. President Cyril Ramaphosa, we stand here today to respond to your State of the Nation address that didn't address the state of our nation. We respond to you on behalf of the women who have been waiting for parental justice in our maintenance courts for many years and received no justice because they didn't have enough in their pockets to bribe their way to justice. We respond to you on behalf of thousands and thousands of young men and women who recently completed their matric but are faced with the tormenting reality that their lives, like those before them, will amount to nothingness because their bachelor's degrees passes did not guarantee them a table in university. We respond on behalf of Kanyisile, who is a victim of bullying at Sutherland High School because she's a black girl in South Africa. She and many young black women are forced to learn that under your leadership, they are second-class citizens. Your presidency does nothing for us, Mr. President. It doesn't protect us, nor does it give us justice. Receive this response on behalf of 17-year-old Amahle, diagnosed at Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital in 2017 to being on the spectrum with special needs and has still not received her right to specialized vocational education to date. Her and thousands other children with disabilities and special needs are cursed with having you as the government of the day, as what is standing between them and their right to education is a government that has abandoned the responsibility of defending the most vulnerable in our society. Mam Rebecca Molefe, who has a common reality to that of my great-grandmother, Unomngwalisa Ngokazi. These black women and majority of black people in this country had their land stripped away from them by white supremacists. Mam Molefe's case is even more catastrophic, as her land was stolen 20 years into democracy after you became president. Petrol attendants, widows and orphans of Marikana, millions of unemployed youth who are bed-rotting and giving in to depression, grandmothers who are abused by their nyaupe and crystal-addicted grandsons and daughters, teachers who are threatened daily at their places of work by children who are victims of dysfunctional communities, business people who have to pay thugs protection fees or risk being killed, farm workers in Purifir in the Eastern Cape who are paid a carton of milk and a box of cigarettes after a week's worth of labor, the colored Danis in the Cape Flats who pray at night while we sleep, hoping to end the violence with spiritual intervention and waiting for Godot because the government has failed to protect them, and the black people in this country who are dispossessed of their land. As much as you say that you will not be bullied, and we agree with you that you must not be bullied, the reality is that, Mr. President, you are being bullied. If you were not being bullied, you would have supported the amendment of Section 25 of our Constitution that was to see the justified expropriation of land without compensation, not the watered-down Expropriation Act that uses the language of revolution, but yet far away from true justice. The state, including Parliament, the executive and the judiciary, carry the obligation to redress imbalances of the past through the enactment of laws that will achieve redress and equitably redistribute all resources. If you were not being bullied, the South African government would pass legislation that all the food bought by government for public facilities should be sourced from small-scale farmers and food producers. This in itself will create sustainable economic activity and inspire many unemployed young people in the country to go into food production because there will be income and financial benefits to boost other economic activities out of it. We would increase state capacity and stop rendering the development of this nation to the greed of tenderpreneurs. We will always need cleaners, Mr. President, truck drivers, security guards, surveyors, healthcare workers, and engineers. There is no tangible reason to subject our nation to the mercy of the private sector through tenders for basic functions of the state. Build the capacity of the state you are in charge of. Do the actual work. Don't just talk about industrialization. Do it. We export almost everything in this country, and your government oversees the compromise of industries we used to dominate. What is the reason that we export Ivaslap Yogeza when we were once a nation that boasted dominance in the textile industry? It is because you are bullied. Initiate the establishment of a state-owned mining company, housing construction company, a state roads company, a state cementing company, because we can no longer tolerate what the party of convicts is doing in Johannesburg with the money that is meant to build our roads. Introduce vocational education in earlier grades. Decolonize the education curriculum. We want you to be exhausted of creating matriculants who have zero skills to show after 12 years of being in the education system. This while children as young as 9 years old are being taught robotics in China. You have been president for 7 years now. May this be the very last State of the Nation address where you hide the shame of your incompetency behind a vision board that never comes to fruition. You chose to lead with people.
Could you please take your seats? Honourable Member, on what point of order are you standing?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I'm rising on Rule 53 of the Joint Rule of Parliament. The Honourable Member is making personal reflection on the integrity of the President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We are looking into that.
Mr. President, you chose to lead with people who want to maintain the status quo because you are bullied. You chose to lead with those who write letters to America and tell on you like you're a little child that requires supervision because you are bullied. You chose the people who don't have a history of ever choosing your own people because you are bullied. And so long as that is the hill that you are willing to build your legacy on, the economic freedom fighters can claim to not being bullied because despite your collaboration with Pravin Gordhan, Jacob Zuma, and the establishment to silence the generation of President Julius Malema, we continue to rally behind the radical call for expropriation of land of South Africans without compensation for equal redistribution and use, nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation, building state government capacity which will lead to the abolishment of tenders, free quality education, healthcare, housing and sanitation, massive protected industrial development to create millions of sustainable jobs, including the introduction of minimum wages in order to close the wage gap between the rich and the poor, close the apartheid wage gap and promote rapid career paths for Africans in the workplace, massive development of the African economy, and advocating for a move from reconciliation to justice in the entire continent. Open, accountable, and corrupt-free government and society without fear of victimization by the State Defense Force, police, and other agencies. We continue to call for economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime.
The progressive is in tatters. The next member to the podium will be the Honourable Minister of Higher Education.
The progressive is finished.
Thank you, honourable members. Could you please take your seat and allow the next member on the podium? Thank you. Thank you, honourable members.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deputy Chairperson. I will premise this debate by reflecting on what democratic and autocratic regimes contextualize education. My position is underpinned by priority number 4 of the ANC manifesto, which calls for investing in people, linked with
Honourable
the priority...
Minister, could you please speak into the microphone so that you can be clearly heard? Thank you.
I will premise this debate by reflecting on what democratic and autocratic regimes contextualize education. My position is underpinned by priority number 4 of the ANC manifesto, which calls for investing in people, linked with the priority of the GNU, a capable, ethical, and developmental state. In the 1950s, Verwoerd said, I quote, "There is no place for the Bantu in the European community above the level of certain forms of labor. What is the use of teaching the Bantu child mathematics when it cannot use in the practice? That is quite absurd. Education must train people in accordance with their opportunities in life, according to the spheres in which they live. That's why today we have a challenge of maths and science in our students in terms of performance. It's because of the white people in the 1950s. On the contrary, Nelson Mandela said, it is not beyond our power to create a world in which all children have access to good education. Those who do not believe this have small imaginations. We remember his words today, hence it marks 35 years of his release from prison. Ekuseni ngo-4 o'clock, Sakhululu Mandela. In response to these divergent views, one of the leaders of the Progressive Liberation Movement, which is the African National Congress, the latter, and the colonial ruler, the former, 70 years ago, a profound promise was made in the Freedom Charter, a declaration that the doors of learning and culture shall be opened. This year, we rise in our collective spirit to stand against bullies. As President Ramaphosa declared, we will not be bullied. We will not be bullied as we dismantle the structural barriers of inequality. We will not be bullied as we move decisively to implement the NHI, the Bella Bill, the Expropriation Act, ensuring that power, resources, and opportunities serve the people, not the privileged elite. What we need to understand is that education can put us in a trajectory to rapidly respond to the economy of the future through cutting-edge research capabilities, empower our nation's people to claim the democratic freedom and build a more prosperous and just society. Today, we reaffirm this noble vision of our people. We understand the aspirations of the society, envisioning an integrated approach of the government focus of all-round improvement on education system as a whole. An education system that has a consolidated programmatic vision, an education value chain with a focus on early childhood development, basic education, and post-school education and training, which is then going to transition into the world of work, thereby addressing access and success. During SONA, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa said, Matric class of 2024 achieved the highest pass rate in our country's history for the first time in history of our country. Nearly half of these learners achieved a bachelor pass. Honorable Chair, through years of patience, deliberate interventions, and through years of policy reforms by the ANC-led government in the previous administration, the sector now is maturing and demonstrating incremental performance, which has resulted in the 87.3% pass rate in 2024. Honorable Speaker, we are now, as the African National Congress, reaping the fruits of these reforms introduced by the democratic government led by the African National Congress, together with measures implemented to drive support during COVID-19 period. Ultimately, in 2024, these measures proved to be effective as we witnessed a significant increase in metric results due to progressive decisions made to support the class of 2024 by the Sixth Administration. Recent reforms that have been introduced in the Sixth Administration is the Bella Bill, which was signed into law. It is a pivotal act for ensuring that education is accessible and inclusive, and it does not leave anyone behind. We will continue paying attention to the socio-economic relevance of these efforts by restructuring and reimagining NSFAS as well as SETAs to drive education and skills revolution as a catalyst for all-round socio-economic transformation. Honorable Member, the President has also responded to the financial barriers, introduced the comprehensive student funding model as the revised NSFAS model, which seeks to bridge the funding gap, particularly amongst those middle-income families. Today, millions of young South Africans have access to post-education and training system without the overwhelmed burden of financial exclusion. Honorable Member, TVET colleges are central to the African National Congress policy position and this government's effort to develop the skills pipeline essential for economic growth. To address youth unemployment, we are promoting centers of specialization across TVET colleges. By the year 2030, South Africa must achieve the National Development Plan targeting of producing 30,000 artisans annually, which is a crucial goal. Additional test centers have been established to certify artisans who can contribute to the construction, automotive, and manufacturing industries, ensuring a future-oriented workforce. Education is a catalyst for economic growth. Skills development is essential in our fight against poverty and inequality. The partnership between DHET and Allen Gray empowers TVET artisanal entrepreneurs by implementing student-focused entrepreneurship development programs in all our 50 TVET colleges in South Africa. Honorable Chair, we commend the ANC, the leader of government, for steering a united GNU where diversity thrives, where ideological differences is embraced, and the nation building takes center stage. Meanwhile, outside the GNU, it is colder than a Cape Town winter. The so-called Progressive Caucus collapsed faster than the EFF, switches from a red overall parliament to designer clothes after parliament. You will see them today. The camouflage toy soldiers, marching cycles, lost in a family legacy party where leadership is inherited, maybe a GNU boot camp is indeed needed so that they can learn how essentially unity is. Honorable members, when we speak of transformation today, we do so with the understanding that it is not merely an option, but a necessity. We cannot accelerate growth, tackle inequality, or reduce unemployment without fundamentally empowering our youth. South Africa and the entire continent must acknowledge that their biggest asset is not just natural resources, but also their youthful population. Utilizing this young population
Thank you very much,
crucial.
Honourable Minister. Your
Thank
time
you
has
so much.
expired.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker to the podium is Honourable Mikalakis.
Deputy Chairperson, the President gloated in his speech on Thursday that more than 28 million unemployed and vulnerable people receive social grants. And although it's commendable that the state is supporting the poor and vulnerable, as it should, this is half our population that cannot even buy a bread without relying on the state for help. And then you send here from the Northern Cape a premier who last year said people in his province should make more babies so that he can get a bigger slice of the budget. You, Honourable Premier, should make more jobs and less or fewer ludicrous statements. South Africans do not want to be grovelling and begging at the feet of the government, and they certainly do not want to be told what to do by a government. And on that topic, Madam Speaker, the NHI, although the Minister of Health has not spoken today, I think he's said more than enough to last us all a lifetime. But the President did touch on this in his speech. I want to say to the Minister, the pioneer of the NHS in Britain was a Labour Party minister called Nye Bevan. Minister, you think you are another Nye Bevan, but you're only halfway there, because this idea is half-baked. This is why you lost 4% and more in the poll directly after you signed it into law, Mr. President. The South Africans want to be free to choose, free from government interference. Mr. President, yes, they want a basic standard of living, and the DA wants this to happen. But South Africans do not want to pay for it with their freedom, to become forever at the mercy of a big government. As far as Deputy Minister Zikalala is concerned, you tried so hard, but you came up short. Demotions to the rank of deputy are always painful, but it's been 6 months. Get over it, man. And see it as a learning curve. If you watch carefully what Minister McPherson is doing, you might one day be a good Minister of Public Works yourself. If I then turn to the opposition Deputy Chairperson, let me quote Honourable Malema, and I can't believe I'm being reduced to quoting the Honourable Malema, but stranger things have happened in this House. A quote from December 2024, Honourable Malema said, "To work with President Zuma is to stab yourself in the back because he is not honest." In this rare moment of enlightenment, the Honourable Member has stated clearly what we've been saying for years. Because listening to the MK speakers, I should think that it was hardly possible to state the opposite of the truth with more precision. Puppeteered by the very man who benefited from the arms deal and saw the initial decline of the Defence Force and presided over its gradual further decline, how hypocritical is it that you can come and pretend that you're on the side of our soldiers? The same man oversaw state capture and then appointed the first ever impeached judge with a history of poor judgment in law to come and preach justice for all. Irony is supposed to be funny. This is just vulgar hypocrisy.
Order. Honourable Member, could you please rise so I can see who it is? On what rule are you standing, Honourable Member?
Honourable Speaker, I rise on a point of order in terms of Rule 85 of the joint rules. The Honourable Sikaladis, he made some improper and defamatory statements against President Jacob Zuma, alleging the outcome of an arms deal.
Sorry, Honourable Member, Rule 85 is the wrong rule that you are standing on. Please take your seat. It's a wrong rule. Thank you. Continue, Honourable
Speaker,
Member.
Which rule book are you looking at?
Rule 85.
Of which rule book?
The joint rules.
I'm just wondering. I'm referring to the National Assembly
No,
rules.
this is the joint rules that will apply. The joint rules.
Okay,
Please
thank
take your
you,
seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Nicholas, may continue.
And finally, we have the small parties who one by one came to tell us in a few minutes each how to govern, when the most they've done up to now is to destabilize every government they've ever been a part of, with not a single leadership election between the lot of them. Precious democracy there. Mr. President, we need to create jobs and growth. Our DA ministers have begun creating exactly this. That's why you could brag about mostly their achievements on Thursday. And good for you. Now, the rest of the cabinet must come on board, and urgently, so the entire government can take this country forward. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The next Honourable Member is Honourable Mokoena. Thank you, honourable members. Could you please give the honourable member an opportunity to speak and be heard? Thank you.
Thank you. Is it on? Madam Speaker, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, greetings to all South Africans. I would like to acknowledge the incomparable and charismatic president of the MK Party, the bold and the decisive leader of our era, His Excellency J.G. Zuma, as well as our esteemed party leader, Dr. M.J. Hlophe, a figure of resilience, distinction, tried and tested through times, who proudly holds the highest accolades in the 7th Parliament. I would like to remind some of the previous speakers who seemingly did not get the memo of why we are here. We are here to debate the SONA, not to debate the MK Party president. Because thanks to some of you, because of your devious and conniving
Order,
actions.
honourable members, allow the speaker to continue. Thank you.
Because of some of your devious and conniving actions, he's simply an esteemed guest today. Honourable Stinezen, you need to really heal. I mean, it's been years from now. Your continued obsession over President Zuma is now laughable. It has reached a sad level, and it hasn't changed the fact that you have joined this government out of desperation. Someone needs to tell the DA to focus their energy on the embarrassing city of Tshwane exclusion. Concentrate rather on begging Honourable Panyaza to finally give you a table at his seat. The MK Party should be the... Deputy Minister Zigalala, you are not a very tall man, and your debate was also vertically challenged.
Order.
You simply missed the point. Your main problem is your less qualified minister who completely undermines you and bullies you, not us. Honourable Modise, the least I say about you, the better. Your speech was unfortunately not even worth the paper that it's written on. I'm not sure if you are working towards a promotion, but the cheap shots that were petty won't get you far up the ladder. Mr. Ramaphosa, what we witnessed at the State of the Nation address was nothing more than a calculated attempt to distract the nation from the shocking failures of your government. Failures that have quite frankly crippled the lives of millions of South Africans, crippled our health systems, our education system, and infrastructure, and even safety of our citizens. The false progress and transformation that you so boldly represent were quite misleading, for a lack of a better word. Nothing more than a mask covering the festering wounds of corruption, mismanagement, and neglect. It is no secret that your government has failed to deliver, yet you continue to spin the tale of progress while our people suffer. Instead, we see cadre deployment. Cadre deployment has now under the rug by empty promises and your well-crafted speech. Under the rug by empty promises and your well-crafted speech. And today we represent the truth. The truth that your government has failed. Failed our provinces, failed our people, you failed our future in this country. This is the harsh reality of our provinces. Let us start with Eastern Cape, a province that has become a symbol of systematic failure, a province where financial mismanagement has reached its staggering heights. Over 1 billion rands unauthorized spending. This can't be a minor mistake. It's a failure of governance. Out of the 39 municipalities in that province, nearly half of them are at the brink of collapse, with only a handful managing to achieve even the most basic standard of accountability. Take the tragic loss of 231 lives in the roads of Eastern Cape in 2024, due to the horrible state of the provincial roads, roads that were never maintained, roads that were left to decay while politicians turned a blind eye. Then we move to KZN, our beautiful province of KZN, a province betrayed by this very GNU, a province that stole the votes of the people. We all know that the MK Party won KZN fair and square. But through the manipulation of GNU, your government has abandoned its duty to protect its citizens. Unemployment in this province has soared to a high of 42%. This is not an economic success at all. But it doesn't stop there. 1,000 lives have no access to clean water. Sanitation projects that were promised remain unfinished. Free State, this promised land reform has proven to be nothing but empty words. Farmers, both new and old, are being abandoned. In Gauteng, let us turn our heads to Gauteng, where over 300,000 families remain on housing waiting lists. Meanwhile, informal settlements continue to mushroom. The streets of Johannesburg used to be quite beautiful, once a shining example of Africa's potential, now littered and neglected through the GNU. Mpumalanga, the center of South Africans' coal, not just from economic stagnation, but it's suffocating from the environmental decline. Despite your promises, sir, power outages are still a daily routine, still a daily reality in Mpumalanga. But that's not the only crisis. Mining activities have poisoned the rivers and water resources, leaving the communities to live with acid mine drainage. Limpopo, the future of our children is being sacrificed. Over 40% of 3-year-olds are not enrolled in any early childhood development programs. And nearly 13% of 4-year-olds have no access to education at all. And you call that progress. Let's get to the province of Northwest. Municipalities continue to fail, deliver basic services. Funds meant for service delivery are mismanaged every day. Then it's the Western Cape, where the DA carries on with a loud hailer, saying that it's boasting about economic growth. But the reality is far different. We see you. The progress they talk of only benefits the privileged few. You only need to land in Cape Town Airport to see the grim reality of what our people are facing. The housing backlog in the province exceeds 300,000. We as the MK Party are led by a fearless and visionary leader whose strength and decisiveness define this era. We have been entrusted with a mandate by the people who refuse to accept a future dictated by lies and empty promises. The failures of the government of the GNU are not just an embarrassment, they are a betrayal of the people who put you in the trust. The time for real change is now. And to those who cling to hate, division, and racism in disguise, we see you. We urge you to take advantage of the opportunity opened up by Trump. The gates of America are open for you. You will not be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next member to speak is Honourable Ramaphosa. Thank you, Honourable Members. Please allow the member on the podium to speak. Thank you.
Chairperson.
Order, Honourable Members.
Chairperson and the collective of the presiding officers, the President of the Republic, Deputy President, and the collective of the executive, and honorable members, honorable members, just before his blood and soul was about to be brutally extracted from his youthful and healthy body by the evil and forever thirsty apartheid vampires for black blood, Solon Matangu said the following, and I quote, "Tell my people that I love them and they must continue the fight. My blood will nourish the tree that will water the tree of freedom," close quotation. President Ramaphosa, your State of the Nation address is in the context of what Solomon Mahlangu was saying.
because in that State of the Nation address, you demonstrated love for the people of South Africa. This you demonstrated by ensuring that the message is very clear to our people and the world that as South Africa, because we love peace and friendship, we are part of all the United Nations institutions of governance and all its other ancillary bodies. You indicated in your speech that the reason why we love our people, that is why we are part of multilateralism. You indicated in your speech that it is important for us not to allow imperialism to be unleashed on the people of South Africa. You indicated that the reason why we must continue to work with the African continent is because we are part of Africa, and we must ensure that Africa succeeds in its quest to make sure that the economy grows and to make sure that we create jobs for the people of Africa. You said, President, in your speech, that you are continuing to engage both Russia and Ukraine to make sure that there is peace and friendship, as the Freedom Charter has said. This you are doing because you love our people. I just want to make an example of this love which flows from your organization, the African National Congress. There will be a lot of brouhaha to you if you are a leader at that level. But we know, President, that empirical evidence has demonstrated that here in South Africa, our foreign exchange reserves are hovering around 1.6 trillion. These foreign exchange reserves that we have are not happening because they fell like manna from heaven. It's happening because there's a deliberate program in the leadership that you are leading in government by the African National Congress to make sure that we invest in other nations and other nations also invest in South Africa. It has happened because the necessary investment conditions are created and continue to be strengthened to ensure that people and companies are able to come to South Africa to invest so that we can deal with poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Honorable Groenewald, I think you are being hypocritical and disingenuous. You take advantage of the prevailing circumstances because of voices that are coming from the US. You want to impress them by conflating the matters of expropriation of land with matters of common criminality. Because a matter of somebody who invades a farm illegally, that is criminality. And therefore you can't conflate it with an act that has been signed by the president. But I'm not surprised because we will know that here in South Africa, there was a man who was from the Afrikaner Weerstandbeweging. That man is Eugene Terreblanche. And one of the things he did, Eugene Terreblanche, as a scarecrow towards the first democratic elections in 1994, he called upon right-wing Afrikaners to store non-perishable food because there was going to be instability in South Africa. Terreblanche is no more, and the food substances that were stored, they ran out of their shelf life. And he didn't have the opportunity to say to them that I misled you. I'm saying this because the right-wingers in the form of Solidarity and AfriForum are doing exactly the same thing. If you say that and you mislead people, if you say that in South Africa there's land grabs that are taking place, when you know the truth that there's no land grabs taking place in South Africa, There's a constitution that we are respecting. You are behaving exactly like Eugene Terreblanche behaved before the 1994 elections. Honorable Steenhuisen, I thought that there's a dilution of Steenhuisenism because you are now part of the GNU. Now, please make sure that you go and study the constitution of the country very well. You don't have ministers that you have appointed. In terms of the constitution of the republic, the ministers are appointed by the president. Now you cannot come here and claim ownership over ministers that you did not appoint. You are actually breaking the law because the ministers, as I say, are appointed by the president. There's no one else who can appoint the ministers. President, we want to commend you for ensuring that you did not respond openly to President Kagame in as far as the situation in the eastern part of the DRC is concerned. Because what you were doing is to respect the channel of diplomacy that I established as a leader. And what you were doing, you knew that he is your brother, he is your African brother, and an opportunity to engage with him will come, like it happened over the weekend. Kobo President, nkwa mogala tshwara thata e se re go utla sebodu wa khao. Ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, there was one point of order that was raised during the sitting. That point will be considered and a pronouncement will be made at the sitting tomorrow. That brings us to the end of the list of speakers for today. The debate will resume tomorrow. I will ask all honorable members to please remain standing until the procession leaves the chamber. That concludes the business of the day and the joint sitting is adjourned. Thank you, honorable members.